This is not Jerry Miller. This is Terry, the phone sex operator.
Barry White.
Yeah. We could go a lot of ways with that.
Barry White is?
Oh, I know who Barry White is. I know who Barry White is. I feel perfectly fine, but as someone who uses his voice frequently and aggressively for a living, this is the collateral damage you often incur. How are you feeling, Keith?
I feel a lot better than you sound, my friend.
Thank you.
I also look a lot better than you do, but that's besides the point.
Wow, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Oh,
Depends on who you're asking over there.
We are starting off well. Today is World Pasta Day. We're going to talk pasta.
Ooh, I know what your favorite pasta is.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I don't. Well, this would be a good test to find out how well we know each other.
I'd say it's Tavola.
No, that's a restaurant.
No, but they serve pasta.
I understand that.
You're saying it's not your favorite pasta?
3 questions. Favorite pasta,
Okay.
favorite pasta dish, and favorite restaurant to get pasta in our fair city or region. Let's start it off with something fun.
I like it.
I love pasta. It's the Italian in me.
Who doesn't love pasta?
Would you believe it or not, Yona?
She doesn't love pasta?
Yeah. She's Austrian.
What does that have to do with
Pasta's not a national dish
Really?
in Austria, right? So she calls it noodles, and it drives me nuts. I will tell you, of 37 years of marriage, that's the one thing that we disagree on is
That means
pasta.
you guys are doing pretty well.
We're doing really well. Pasta's a big thing in my family, particularly the Italian side. The other side is the Irish side, and that would be probably alcohol.
Right, yeah. I know, but you guys agree on alcohol.
Pardon?
You guys agree on alcohol.
Oh, we do. We very much so agree on alcohol. Yeah, but so what is your favorite pasta, right?
Viewers and listeners, what's your favorite pasta? We'll talk
What's
about
your
that when the show starts.
favorite pasta dish, right? And then where do you like to enjoy it the most at?
I like it. I
Could
like
be
those
at home,
topics.
could be wherever.
We'll ask Judah Wickhauer those questions as well. And he's ready to go.
Look
I
at
know.
this.
He's so prepared. I like it. And he's got the mic on, right? Is it plugged, is it plugged in?
And then he's plugged in, and maybe we'll do this talking through
job,
the
Judah.
intro. Smith won't screw that up today.
So you can start the intro, and then at the 3, 2, 1 marker, let us know, and we'll rock and roll, Judah.
And Smith will shut up.
I'm a big fan of Vivace.
Yeah. Okay. As far as restaurants go, Vivace. Yeah, I go in. I go in cycles. At the moment, my cycle is Tavola.
I mean, you've been on Tavola for years.
Yeah, it's been a while. Here we go. I'm going to shut up now. Thank you, everybody, for patience.
Guys, good Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in downtown Charlottesville on a show that is watched by quite a few people. Real Talk with Keith Smith has become the, I'll say it, the water cooler of real estate for a 300,000 person market. We see folks watching from many different brokerages and many different businesses tied to real estate and beyond. And we understand the responsibility that comes with it.
I'm glad you said responsibility.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk pasta this morning because, it's Real Talk with Keith Smith, and we're going to talk real about pasta on today's World Pasta Day. But I had a meeting at Tavola yesterday.
Oh.
And, the person sitting next to me said, "Where do I know you from?" And then my answer always is man, I know you money.
Yeah.
But, and thanked us for some of the data that we did, and particularly thanked us for the show that we had the good Dr. Lisa Steravent on, which hopefully we're going to kind of do some post-production stuff for the first Monday. I think we got it slated for the first Monday in November.
Is she coming in town?
No. Her schedule is so tight, but we're gonna do it virtually, and we'll talk a little post-production stuff. But look, so what is your favorite pasta dish? So not the dish, but the actual pasta, right? So I don't even want to use the word noodle because I'll get into trouble. But what is your favorite pasta? Right?
I'd say lasagna.
Lasagna, okay.
Yeah.
Judah?
Are you on a 3-shot,
I
Jerry?
think maybe fettuccine.
Fettuccine is very
Fettuccine,
good.
got it. Mine is bucatini, which you do not see a lot of.
How about Vasily Jerry?
Pardon?
Vasily Jerry. Seinfeld reference. Right?
Yeah. You mean we called it angel hair because we couldn't say that big fancy word.
Angel hair is good.
We called it angel hair. But yeah, so bucatini is basically a spaghetti noodle that has a hole in the middle of it. And the only place I know around here that you can get it is Tavola. So is lasagna noodle and lasagna your favorite pasta dish, or would you have if you had?
I'd say my favorite noodle is, take a page out of Judah's book, fettuccine.
Yeah, got it.
My favorite pasta dish is lasagna.
Yeah. So meatless, with meat, without meat?
With meat.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, my wife and I were talking about this yesterday. We have 2 sons, which you guys know. Viewers and listeners may not know that. We have a 5.5-year-old and 11-month-old. And when steak is on the menu... Steak. When steak is on the menu at the house, my son goes, my oldest goes, let's go, we're ready. And now our 11-month-old, we're cutting it out into like thumbnail-sized pieces.
Yeah.
Devours steak. My wife likes chicken, but she's overruled at the house. She goes, if I get steak, the boys eat everything. If I get chicken, they graze.
And you grill it, obviously.
No, she likes to pan-sear it.
Ooh.
That's very good.
Ooh.
I would stack my wife's steak up against many in this community.
Yeah.
In fact, yesterday I got a text message from Woody Fitcham about the best steak in town. And, we are fortunate in that we have we have so many steak options in this community. For me, from a steak standpoint, Aberdeen Barn or Petit Pois. You've had the steak frites, right?
Yeah. So I was going to talk about World Pasta Day.
We can talk about pasta.
But it's pretty hard to beat Aberdeen, but it's 2 different ways that they cook, right? There's the French and then there's kind of the American version
Sure.
of it. So, I love simple stuff, and believe it or not, and it's really hard to make well, is a really good spaghetti and meatballs. It's really hard, and Yona gets mad at me all the time because I am a bit of a pasta snob, and I cannot, it's about getting the pasta al dente, and I will tell you, very few restaurants actually can achieve that. Tavola is one of them. Vivace is another one. Orzo is another one. But very few can get that to that right moment that you have to pull it out. So it's just a little crunchy. Not crunchy, but just a little hard.
Yeah.
I hate a soggy pasta noodle. But anyway.
Stephanie Rhodes watching the program. She says, my husband does not eat either. Is that Stephanie? He does not eat pasta or steak? Is that right? Or is it just pasta, the types of pastas we're talking about?
Yeah, so Yona won't eat. I mean, she'll eat it.
She will not eat pasta?
Yeah, it's a.
So what'd she get at Tavola?
She usually gets the fish, right, or something other than that. But she's not a pasta fan. But it's just how she grew up, right? She didn't know it. It was never in our household, right? It was schnitzel and potatoes and green salads. It wasn't a pasta world. This is Central Europe. It didn't kind of influence, at least in the little village that she's from, up over there. But I'll tell you, if you want to eat well, go take a trip over to Yona's little home village. And
when's the last time you've been?
Oh, I have not been since the death of my father-in-law in 2009. I have not been, but prior to that, we'd go probably twice a year. We don't have too many family members. Actually, we only have one, is our sister, that's 2 years younger than her, and my nephew, that's 21, 22. But we have not gone there together since 2009, which we actually were talking about that.
2009.
Yeah.
14 years.
But your head would explode because I won't do it for under 3 weeks, right? If you're going to do it, you got to take the time to go ahead and do it.
Where do you stay?
We'll stay. Well, we don't have the houses anymore. We don't have the house, her mom's house in Lower Austria, or the apartment in Vienna. So we'll just stay in hotels and little guest houses and stuff like that.
What are the hotels like? And Stephanie says my husband won't eat pasta.
Yeah.
Her husband, who's a great guy,
Yeah.
big fan of Larry,
Yep.
will not eat pasta. I would
Yeah.
imagine he devours steak, though, Stephanie.
Yeah. Well, it's carnivorous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we.
Of course, Stephanie from the Interstate Service Company.
ISC.
Yeah.
Give him a
Interstate
call.
Service Company.
But anyway, I just wanted to kick that off that way, and it came across my phone. World Pasta Day. I love pasta, and
Have you been to Vivace recently?
last Friday.
You went last Friday to Vivace?
Was it Friday or Thursday? I think it was the end of last week.
Good. So you've been recently.
Yeah.
The place is fantastic.
Yeah, I like it. I love their martinis over there.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting a little colder. I like to sit on their
On their patio?
Terrace or patio,
Yeah, with the
or-
lights. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so I really enjoy doing that. But you know, don't underrate Orzo. Orzo does a really good job.
Orzo's fantastic.
with their pasta. The thing
Those three, Tavola, Orzo, Vivace.
so what's a fourth one? That's the one I can't figure out.
Fourth, Sal's Cafe Italia is good.
Sal's, there you go. There's the fourth one.
Downtown Mall,
Forgot about
Sal's.
that one. Yeah, fourth one. So but those folks in particular, those four, if you order a pasta dish, you'll get it al dente, without a doubt. So it makes a difference for those of us who pasta snobs who love pasta. There's nothing worse than a soggy noodle.
I don't like soggy noodles.
Soggy noodles.
I don't like soggy noodles.
So-
Judah doesn't like soggy noodles.
Judah doesn't like anything soggy.
Who likes soggy stuff?
So when we wait for the executive director to get back, or the director to get back, I was asked yesterday, actually, by just concurrently several elected officials to kind of take a look at what the last 21 since 2003, what the average and median days on market look like. And I know, Judah, I didn't send you a separate zip file, but in that email is the slide for that. And it's an interesting slide to take a look at, because what it does, thank you, Judah. So what it does, it takes a look at everything pre-time of great unpleasantness, the time of great unpleasantness, and then afterwards. And if you kind of take a look at it, the red or the burgundy color is the median numbers. The yellow or the gold color, depending on your perception of the color, is the average days on market. So I had a great conversation with Dr. Lisa Sturvant yesterday, and was asking her which numbers should I show. Should I show average? Should I show median? And she said you should show both, right? So that's what I did. The good doctor says do it. I did it. But I mean, just take a look at the last three, in the median side, the last 3 years, 21, 22, 23, was around 6 or 7. This is the full car footprint, right? Single family detached, no new construction. But then, in 2020, that's 3 times the number, right? But take a look at 2011 and 2010, and we were in the 80s and the 70s.
And keep this on screen. This is a lot for people to digest.
Yeah. The reason I did it...
This is great data.
Thank you, sir. The reason I did it was I wanted to see what the median average days on market was, and the median days on average days on market.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
I think this is fantastic.
Too much.
No, it's not. I think it's A++. This is the best one you've ever put together.
Stop it.
I sincerely mean that.
But keep it
One
coming.
point of
But stop.
suggestion. You should put Real Talk with Keith Smith branding on it.
Oh, that's funny.
The reason I make that suggestion is because I would like to share this.
Yeah.
I Live Seville's got a big following.
Yeah, sure.
The newsletters, this would be fantastic for our newsletter, which is reaching a lot of people.
Well,
And I would love to have your branding on it so people see it.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I kind
Or
of
maybe YRP branding.
I purposely unbranded it, and I unbranded it very specifically because I want people to use it, right? So what I might do is do a branded and an unbranded version of it. So if people, I want to look at this as an open source, right? So folks can use it, particularly to elected officials. It's just, but I'll consider that, Jerry, and I will go ahead and do that. But the reason
There's one of our fans try to come in.
fans
Give them the,
give them the wave off, huh? Is this like the carrier wave off thing?
You know what we need, and Judah, we've talked about this. We need a on air now sign that
wow.
we can put on the door
Yeah.
and let people know.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't enter on air now.
There you go. I love it. The reason I wanted to look at this is I wanted to look at, and this was the information that I was asked by the elected officials. So what was the average days on market, which is 83, going from 2003 to that's 21 years, right? And what was the median average, right? And this come up on the show quite a few times about, when is this buyer-seller shift going to happen? And what these numbers are telling us, Jerry, is that if we pick the median days on market, just for argument's sake, we've got a long way to go before we even get to that average of 46. I think what you'll see when you start getting somewhere around the median now, somewhere around the 20, 30 days, closer to the 30 days, that's when the mentalities will start shifting, I think, on buyer and seller. Because we get this question all the time. When is this market going to shift, right, from a seller's to a buyer's?
Well, you've highlighted it, 46.
Well, 46 is the average, right?
46 is the median.
Median, excuse me. Thank you. Median days on market is 46. Well, actually, it's a typo. It's the average of the median days on market, right? The other one is the average of the average days on market. I know that's a lot of averages and a lot of medium. So that was a typo on my part. But at the end of the day, and thank you, I'm going to have to fix that. But the average median days on market is 46. The average days on market is 83. And it was interesting. I didn't do this on the chart, but I did it on my spreadsheet. I pulled out the 4 years of time of the time of great unpleasantness, which is 2007 through 9. That's when the quote unquote Great Recession was, and the average median days on market only dropped to 43. So that made me, even if we took that out, right, and said this was an anomaly, right, this will never happen again, right? If you took those 4 years out, the average was 43, which is awfully damn close to 46. So when we start creeping up into the 30s, that's when this whole psychology is going to start kicking in and go ahead and change. But I thought this would be some helpful information for folks out there. I will make the edits on that, Jerry, and I'll give you 2 copies, one branded and one unbranded.
Please.
So, the folks that wish to use this from an unbranded.
Well, this would make great content for the lead of the I Love Seville newsletter.
There you go. So, but I'll have to do some edits for you, my friend, because it is a little confusing what the average days on market actually means, and so I've got to change that in that. So anyway.
So you're going to brand it, and the median days on market with 46, you're going to say the average of the median days on market.
I need to clean up the language for you on that stuff. So, didn't have
good job.
Thank you. Didn't have much today to chat about other than pasta, which I'm surprised we're not talking much more about pasta. But and then I wanted to go ahead and get out this average days on market and medium days on market. It's a good visual. We're a long way from a shift in the market. And I believe we had somebody chime in to me directly on why this is important. And why this is important, this is kind of, at least for me, this is kind of a litmus test or kind of a leading indicator or a lagging indicator, depending on how you look at it, on how the market is trending, right? But more so, the last 3 years, everybody got used to 7 days. Everybody got used to
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Everybody got used to that. The thing that I didn't do the math on it, the thing that I found the most interesting in the last 3 years, if you take a look at the difference between the median and the average. So for year to date, on 2023, the average is 32, the median is 7. So that means there was quite a few homes that hung out there for a while, right? That kind of impacted that average, because on the median they drop out the high and the low, right? They just focus on the middle thing. So that's why the good doctor was saying you gotta have to look at both a little bit, right, to see where the delta and the trends are going between the two. But that's a pretty healthy difference between the two. So I think a lot of it has to do with the some homes being on the market a little bit longer than
Keith Smith dropping dimes today. Woody Fincham, welcome to the program.
Hey, Woody.
Carly Wagner, welcome to the program. Bill McChesney, Albert Graves, Kate Sharts, the Queen of Ivy. Travis Hackworth has given us love from Danville. Chad Wood, Kevin Higgins, Katie Pearl, Woody Fincham, Kristen Smith, Georgia Gilmer, Mr. DL, Kyle Miller, Kevin Yancey. Kevin Yancey's got a couple of tidbits for us. Kevin Yancey.
Surprised.
He says, did either of you know that Zip had a pizza place in McIntyre Plaza along with Vivace? Zip, the former owner of Vivace. I did not know that, Kevin Yancey.
That's new.
I appreciate you letting us know. Joshua Tracy, hello. Bob Yarbrough, hello. Bellamy Brown, Ray Cadell. Real estate investor Jamie Turner, hello. John Neal, hello. Liza Borchis, David Puso.
Hey, Liza. Good to see you the other day.
Patty Rowe of Logan Foster, welcome to the program. Ivy Haynes, welcome to the show.
Hey,
Brittany
Ivy.
Gray, Jill Cowherd, Sandra McDaniel. This comes in from Grayson. I tune into the shows for content and information like this. You routinely blow my mind with what you provide. We're going to blow your mind even more on the I Love Seville show as we reveal the details of a new show launching on the I Love Seville network in November. This one will air on Thursday afternoons as we penetrate the afternoon slot on the I Love Seville network.
Yeah, you're going to have to take a little bit more of those throat lozenges.
It's not even going to be tied to me.
Yeah?
I'm not going to host it.
Oh, really? Good
Yeah.
for you.
We also have another show in the works that's tied to moms. So
Ooh.
2 additional programs.
You've been
about
doing that
there
for a while.
on the
I'm
I Love
excited
Seville
about
network.
that. I'm excited about the mom one.
I'm very excited about the 2 programs we have about to air. This has come up on the show. Last show, Keith and Jerry, it was not me, it was Keith. We're talking about,
Did I just get thrown under the bus?
well, no, you brought it up.
Yeah. No, the CNBC brought it up.
You guys were talking about the commission structure changing for realtors. Sally's asking, can you follow this? Logan Wells, Claylo, welcome to the program. You got a boatload of realtors and 4 mortgage brokers watching the program right now, a couple of closing attorneys, 3 home inspectors. Woody Fincham, in my book, is the best appraiser out there. I love you, Woody Fincham. Do you want to touch on that even more?
Yeah, I mean, we dug into it a little bit on Monday. So let's and that was about 20 minutes into the show because the caffeine kicked in. At this
Do you want
point.
to set the stage for a sizzle reel? How about a sizzle reel that I can play on the I Love Seville show today?
Oh, great! Now you just screwed it up.
You need to set the stage of what's happening.
So-
Judah, mark this timestamp
Yeah.
with Keith's doing the talking first. No pressure.
So.
And look at the camera, please.
Yeah, look at the camera. Geez, you're a pain in the butt today, right? Brand.
I love you.
I love you too, but
Yeah.
brand, spell. You want me to spell right?
you
You,
know
want me
it's
to
good
use
advice.
the right words?
It's coming from a place of
Yeah,
good.
and I got my. He's constantly writing new numbers down, right?
I want to tell you how much this is
I
a
want
perfect
to-
example of why I love Keith.
Uh-huh.
He saw that my voice was struggling today. I feel fine. My voice is not 100%. So Keith, who came to the studio, sprinted to his truck.
No, sprinted. Don't exaggerate. I
into the-
didn't sprint.
You moved quickly.
And
And he came back
got
with
long legs.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Look at that. He can count.
8, 9, 10,
Oh, he's going through the toes.
11, 12, 13, 14, ricotta. What do you call these?
Ricola.
Ricola? No, but what's the word?
Ricola.
Lozenge?
Throat lozenges.
Isn't it a weird word? Lozenger?
I think lozenge is a weird word.
Can you spell it, Keith?
No, I can't.
I can't spell it either. Can you?
I
Judah
can't even
can
spell my last
I can
name
spell it.
sometimes.
I can tell you what it means too.
So are we going to talk decoupling or are we going to talk lozenges?
Well, let's see. He's the smartest guy here. Spell it for us and tell us what it means.
LOZENGE.
Take one of the lozenges.
E.
Okay.
Lozenge. Can I hear it in a sentence? I I believe lozenge just means the shape.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's
I did not know that.
the sh- the
That's
shape-
what this
I
word
would
means.
not doubt you,
I wouldn't doubt
but
it either.
but that sounds like that would make sense.
Judah
I
is a
think-
man of few words, but when the words do come out, they're right.
Literally at dinner
Sometimes.
last night.
A man of few words, but when they come out, they're right. That's fair, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, you're wrong sometimes?
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
I'd probably say more than occasionally, but
Literally
It
at
happens.
dinner last night, Yona and I were talking about the end of our day, and she goes, you know, you and Jerry just never shuts up. But, literally, she said this, but when Judah says something, you better listen to it.
Oh, I listened to Judah.
Not that we shouldn't
Thank
listen
you,
to what
I
pearls
appreciate
of
that.
wisdom we need to drop.
Judah
but
and I have
we
worked
tend to
together
talk
for
a lot.
over 13 years.
Yeah.
I spend more time with Judah than I do my wife.
So,
Okay.
set the
Sizzle-
stage.
Sizzle reel. Sizzle
Set
reel.
the stage. So, this has been going on for a while, years, frankly. So, there is a lawsuit that is running through the class action lawsuit that's running through the system. This is the second week of it. The best way to explain it that I've come up with that there will be, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, there will be a decoupling. So just imagine a chain being decoupled. There is going to be a decoupling of the buyer broker compensation, the number of eggs that buyer broker receives, and the listing broker receives. So it's going to be decoupled. Right now, the way it's set up, and this is, you know, there's a lot of stuff floating around, a lot of what ifs, and, you know, the world is going to end and all this kind of great stuff. And I've been doing this for 3.5 decades, and stuff always changes. This is a pretty big one on it, but there's going to be a decoupling. So what does that mean? So what that means is, at some point in time, we don't know when, at some point in time, I, as the buyer's agent, am going to have to negotiate with the buyer how I get paid, what I get paid, and what my services are that I'm going to provide. The second part of it, and I had a great conversation with Woody about this yesterday, the second part of it is nobody's figured out how I'm actually going to get paid, the process of it, through it. There's multiple ways that it could go down this way. A lot of it will determine upon the lenders. The conversation I had with Woody was about, you know, how are the appraisers going to look at this, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to be decoupled. So let me get this out there on the table. Commissions, eggs, because I can't talk commissions, can't talk percentages, because my tiny hiney will end up in some commission prison somewhere on this, and probably get beat severely. But I kind of like that. But anyway, well, you knew I was going to go there, right?
I did.
But it's the amount of eggs that I get paid has always been negotiable. It's never been not negotiable on that end of it. I think the general public maybe didn't know that, but it has always been negotiable. So the best way to look at this, if you're in the real estate space right now, if you've ever done a for sale by owner, what did you have to do? You had to negotiate your commission in it, right? You had to make sure your commission was in the contract and how you were going to get paid, when you were going to get paid. It was part of it. Also, if you've ever done any commercial, which I've done a fair amount of, right, you always got to negotiate your commission into it and make sure it's in it. Where the 10-ton elephant is in the room is how this is going to impact the first-time home buyer and the people at the middle to the lower income purchase price
Because they're
range.
strapped for cash.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna-
right now
it's gonna big time
we're
impact.
starting to see it in the MLS. There was a $2 million home that was on the market for $1 compensation. Specifically says in the agent notes that you need, I'm paraphrasing it, but you need to figure out how you're going to get paid, and that's what you need to do. But look,
Wait a minute. In the MLS, in the agent
on
notes,
the agent notes, yeah,
there was a home listed for $2 million, and the listing agent put in the agent notes.
No.
that
So there's a portion in it that says the buyer broker compensation, right?
in the notes, The listing agent
Have
said,
another one, will you?
and the listing agent said,
You want a little sip from over there?
the buyer's representation will not be paid
In essence,
at closing
in essence,
by the seller.
No, that's not what it says. In essence, it says I'm paraphrasing this. I, as the buyer agent, have to figure out how I'm getting paid. That's it. It's on me. The responsibility for my compensation is on my back to figure out how to do that. And I'm personally, I'm perfectly comfortable with that, right? I just, I can negotiate. I've been doing this for a long time. Most agents have been doing this for a long time. But it's just going to be a different way one does business. And, if you do your buyer-broker agreement up front, which is what you're supposed to do, and everybody understands how many eggs I get paid for my job, what my scope of work is, what I do for you, then it's just a matter of how, right? How is this process going to happen at the closing table? So this is a great question from my friend Bill Tucker, one of the best real estate attorneys out there, on how exactly is that going to work on his end of it. And it's for the loan officers out there and the lenders out there, how that's going to work. Because right now, one of the solutions could be we would do a seller concession, right? I'm going to buy this property for $2 million. I negotiate X number of eggs. We increase the price of the $2 million by X eggs. And then the seller just pays the buyer broker directly. That's a possibility. The question is assuming this is a loan, will the lenders allow that to happen? There's this whole unknown, and I think that's what makes everybody nervous right now. I'm getting told to shut up, by the way. So look, tune in, stay in, ask questions. We're going to address them the best I can. I am tracking this live because there's people tweeting from the courtroom. But this is less of what's going on in that lawsuit, more about what I think the industry is going to move. At the end of the day, the lawsuits are going to go one way or the other, right? There's 2 that are already settled, right? There's 3 that are in the current lawsuits. But this ship is already starting. This aircraft carrier is moving. The city of New York, its own MLS system has, as of January 1, will decouple. So it started. New York City is a pretty large market. It is decoupling. NAR, National Association of Realtors, has said, okay, you can now put 0 as a compensation, no eggs as a compensation on it. You will start seeing, I think, several MLSs around the country start saying, okay, it's okay for you to do that. In our MLS, you can do $1. As long as there's something in there, you can do $1. So that's what this $2 million listing did. They put $1 in it. And now if Jerry wants to buy it, I've got to sit down and negotiate with Jerry how I'm going to do my job and how I'm going to get paid.
So if you're my representation
On the buyer side.
on the buyer side, will the buyer pay a flat fee?
It's whatever I negotiate with you.
Well, whatever you negotiate, but I have to agree.
Yeah, so that's what's called
Yeah.
negotiation.
So what if I say to you, I'm going to give you $5,000 and not a penny more?
So then I have to make a decision if I want to do that or not.
Right.
Right? But there's the tricky thing about this is also what the brokers,
I got a follow-up question.
let me finish.
Sure.
What the brokers are going to allow the individual agents to do, which is a kind of bit of an unknown at this point because not everything is done. But I want to stop you for a second. You could do that any day. You could do that before this lawsuit. You could say, Keith, I want you to represent me on this $2 million thing. I want you to do A, B, C, and D, and I'll pay you X dollars for it. You've always been able to do that. The decision is, am I prepared to do that work for that price? Those amount of eggs. Go ahead, ask your second follow-up
So
question.
here's my follow-up question. This $2 million listing,
You're on number 3?
$2 million listing that was in the MLS that said buyer's compensation is $1.
So that's what the seller is paying.
Yeah.
Is
The
$1.
seller is paying buyer representation $1.
$1. And it's up to me to negotiate anything above that.
What would prevent buyer's representation to go to seller's representation and say, I have somebody interested. I have somebody interested in this property, but I'm not going to show that property unless you give me 3%.
So that is a question I do not have an answer to. I happen to think that's unethical.
Because if a buyer's representative
So the question
goes to a
becomes-
seller's representative and says, I have somebody that's interested in buying, but I'm not going to take them to see this house unless you give me 3%.
So that's a question I don't have an answer to.
I got a follow-up question.
Well, let me answer. I don't know if that is illegal. In my opinion, it's unethical. But that should never come across the table, period. Because here's how this is supposed to work. I meet Jerry. We sit down and we have we establish a relationship. And I say, okay, Jerry, this is what I do. This is my skills. This is how I do it. We developed relationship. You know my capabilities and you know what I can do. So I'm going to, before we start looking at homes and opening up lockboxes, and I need to get back to the importance of a lockbox here. But if we go and open up a lockbox without having a buyer-broker agreement in place, shame on me, right? So in that buyer-broker agreement, and we've been doing this for decades, it says, I'm either going to accept what the seller's going to pay me, which is the dollar in this case, and or X number of eggs off the purchase price, whatever we negotiate. So we walk in, so we already now have an agreement that says, this is what we're doing, this is my work, this is your work, this is how many eggs I am going to get compensated if the other side doesn't do it, and you want to buy that, and we open that up, and the seller doesn't pay it, you've agreed to pay those percentage of eggs at the closing. Does that make sense?
You got a boatload of realtors watching right now.
Yeah, this is a slippery slope because there's so much we don't know yet.
I got a follow-up question for you.
But it's important, in my opinion, to architect or outline how it is being done, how it maybe should be done. And as long as you are professional, caring, and trustworthy, and you do the job, and you have your documentation in place, and you set expectations with Jerry, okay, this is how this is going to work, Jerry. There are now listings out there that will only have $1. This is what I'm worth. This is how I get paid. You either agree to it or disagree. I either agree to work for you or don't. So there's this whole new negotiations, which has always been there.
My phone is blowing up.
Okay, go ahead. I'll let you ask a question.
I got a follow-up question for you.
You always do. The follow-up question is have another lozenge.
I mean, I'm a perfect guy to ask these follow-up questions because I've done a for sale by owner,
Sure.
successful,
Sure.
and I've done 13 transactions commercial where I represented myself.
Commercials. So commercial up until now.
And I purchased my personal home representing myself.
So, yeah. So, but there's that's.
And I've sat across from you for 5 years.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Learning about real estate.
Sorry to hear that.
So here's my follow-up question for you.
But let me jump in before you ask the question. If I can't remember what I was going to say, you can remember the question.
Okay.
The FSBO.
For sale by owner.
It's always been. I got to shut off my hearing aids. They're talking to me. People are texting me, so I got to shut my phone off.
People are blowing my phone.
Yeah. So if otherwise it just keeps on talking to me. You've got a text from so and so. You got a text from so and so. The FSBO, the for sale by owner, has always been there. Now there's a document buried in transaction desk or VR that most folks don't know about. But there's a single showing, right? So let's flip the coin a little bit. This 1%, right? I want to show it, a FSBO. I'm going to say, look, I'm going to bring my client. If my client does a contract, you're going to pay me this number of eggs. You're either going to let me in the house or you're not going to let me in the house. But I'll let you ask your question.
So here's my follow. Andy Zeman, welcome to the program. We love when you watch the program, Andy.
Hey, Andy, how are you?
Dean Russell, welcome to the program. You got a boatload of mortgage brokers watching the program right
Well,
now.
I would love their read, because that's outside of my wheelhouse, their read, if this is truly decoupled, right? Let's assume, because the thing about a class action suit is this judge, if it goes a certain way, this judge can make a decision that impacts the country instantly, nationwide.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be straightforward here, very straightforward. The
let's
extremely large percentage of the buying and selling population did not realize that they could negotiate commission with buyers' representations.
Well, I can tell you
The very large percentage.
Yeah,
And I have realtors commenting saying that they didn't even know that was the case.
yeah, well, I can't help that.
There's licensed realtors putting
Yeah.
this in the feed.
Yeah, I can't help that. But commissions, eggs,
I would,
have always been negotiable.
you would agree that most buyers thought or expected or assumed that their representative's compensation was going to be paid at closing through the transaction.
Well, that's what happens.
Right. That was almost an assumption to the fact where it was the norm.
So if you have done your buyer-broker agreement the way it is written in the beginning
You have the conversation.
with a buyer,
Yeah.
you have the conversation.
But most don't.
Yeah, I can't speak for most, right?
Okay.
You know, I'm just saying.
But you're astute.
Pardon?
You're a smart guy.
Did you call me? What did
I
you
said
call me?
I said a smart guy.
Astute?
Astute.
Astute. Wow.
You know that conversation does not often
Do
happen.
we know what that word means? Yeah. I can't sit here. I mean, people need to do what they need to do and need to run their businesses the way they need to run their businesses. I will tell you, I know quite a few real estate agents in my sphere, and we deal in a pretty large sphere. They do buyer-broker agreements, right? Now, the question is when you do it, but you should, at the time that is appropriate. So the state doesn't help us with this, right? The state actually says you're supposed to have a discussion about compensation, eggs. The question becomes, it doesn't say when, right? So,
You know when that often happens, right?
oh, good Lord.
It often happens when you're writing a contract.
No, I was going to say it's very common for the state to make a law and never really give any details to it.
Well,
it's
I'm
kind of like
saying-
unfunded. Yeah.
I'm saying this documentation often presents
So that's
itself
all
when you're writing a
got it.
contract.
So here's the deal. That regardless, in my opinion, regardless of the result of the lawsuit, this decoupling, either formally or informally, is going to happen. It is not a matter of if, it is not a matter of when, and it's not Keith Smith doing this. These are CEOs I've had conversations with from Remax, from Century 21, so you just run down the list. None of this is a bad thing, folks. This is just my ability to demonstrate to Jerry what my value prop is, what I do for a living, and how I do it. I make the decision, and Jerry makes the decision, if this is acceptable and move forward. The question is the how, right? The why and the what it's kind of always been there. It's just never been really talked about. Or I know we always talk with all our buyers and sellers, commissions are negotiable, right? By the way, there's a second side of this decoupling conversation that has to happen. It's with the seller, right? So you have to actually now start having this conversation with the seller, assuming it happens formally, that, we got to have this conversation. But I can assure you, everybody on my partnership, everybody that we work with, we always have these conversations with our buyers and sellers because that's just doing business. Go ahead, ask a question.
What would prevent a buyer's representative to negotiate 3%,
Eggs?
negotiate 3% of eggs,
No, 3 eggs. Just call it 3 eggs.
3 eggs,
I'm trying to keep myself out of trouble here.
three eggs at closing, paid at closing from the sales price.
Well, that's
and then
but that's what's going to happen,
and then
Jerry.
also get compensated by the buyers in a different agreement as well.
Yeah, that I don't.
So that's the second question I asked that you didn't have the answer to.
Yeah, well,
Could not a buyer's representative negotiate 3 eggs from the seller's representative and the seller at closing?
Not if they-
and
not
then,
if they-
and
no.
then also get paid by the buyer up front?
I don't have an answer to that, right? I can assure you we wouldn't do it. I think that's a bit of unethics, but unethical. But what you're trying to say, I think, is, okay, Jerry and I negotiated 2.5 eggs. 2 eggs. Make life simple for my little brain, right? 2 eggs. And I think the question you're trying to ask is, seller agrees to 1 egg right? Because we've already negotiated in the buyer-broker agreement how many eggs I'm getting paid. That's already done. There's no renegotiation of that. That's already done and finished in the
But then
buyer.
there's a side deal.
Pardon?
But then there's a side deal.
Well, then to me that crosses the ethics line, and that's a conversation I really don't want to. I don't want to have, and my hope is nobody actually does
I
that.
got a follow-up question.
But let's stay on the one egg thing, right?
Okay.
So it could be split, right? It could be split that this is all a matter of negotiations and what the lenders are going to allow us to do. The two eggs could be split. One egg is paid by the seller, one egg is paid by the buyer, or whatever portions of eggs. Any of these things are very possible at this point. Again, it's a matter of what the lenders or the underwriters or the regulators are going to allow to happen. And oh, by the way, this all might just peter out and nothing might happen. It might be just New York City is the one that's separate.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I think it's too much on the mainstream.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen,
at
yeah.
this point. Yeah,
No.
I would agree with that.
There's a follow-up question
I
for
would
you.
agree. This is not a matter of if.
This is a matter of when.
When.
Yeah.
I would agree
Follow-up
with that.
question for you. If in a listing on the MLS, in the listing notes, it says buyer's representation must figure out their own compensation on their own accord,
Okay.
what would prevent the home being scarlet lettered and not shown by a large portion of the realtor population?
I mean, these are, you're asking me questions I can't answer, right? It shouldn't be done. That's unethical. It's unprofessional. If you have your buyer-broker agreement lined up, and I'm just going to keep on repeating myself.
Because often FSBO properties are not shown at the same frequency or momentum.
Well, time out. So, but that's not in the MLS. That does not have to comply with ethics. That does not have to comply with the oath or the documentation I've signed with CAR and NAR. That's a whole different animal. It is not.
Because I track data
it
on
is-
Zillow based on views
It
with
is not-
listed and non-listed
That
properties.
is not in the MLS system, which we now we agreed to certain, because once you put a capital R in your name, which is, I can't say it, realtor, sorry, Donna.
You said it.
Sorry, on it, you agree to these certain ethics and stuff like that, and they are enforced. Trust me, they are. So look, as far as FSBO goes, but it doesn't matter, right? If I do my buyer, we should do this on Friday. I'm going to bring a copy of a buyer-broker agreement, the way we write them up. And in our buyer-broker agreement, we specifically put language in there that says that if you buy a new construction, FSBO, yada, yada, there's a whole set of language that's put in that. If the seller doesn't pay a certain number of eggs or percentage of eggs or whatever, the buyer's has agreed to pay it. Now, this is a difficult conversation to have.
Especially for the first-time home buyer.
No, this is a difficult conversation to have for people in general. People don't like to talk about money. People don't like to talk about how I get paid and how much I get paid and how much money I make. That's kind of the underlining thing here. Nobody really likes that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm really good at what I do. I know what I can do, and I will make magic happen for you. I'll walk through, and you know this, I'll walk through walls to make it happen. Our team will work through walls to make it happen. So I know what I'm worth, right? And if we can't negotiate a percentage of eggs and set an expectation of
It's
it,
probably a foreshadowing that they can't negotiate on a deal.
well, we talked about that on Monday, right? Look, I'm probably going to get myself into somewhat trouble here, and my phone is off, so nobody will be texting me in my thing. But if
You
I
have a
can't,
boatload of realtors
if I do not have this, what's the number one skill that I bring
Negotiation.
today? Negotiations. And it's funny, I kind of knew this was all happening about a year ago. And if you remember some previous shows, I was talking about I wanted to do a master class on negotiations, and I'm actually intending to do that. I've got a 11-point conversation that you and I can have about negotiations. But the short version of it is, if I don't have the skill to negotiate with you, my value proposition and how many eggs or percentage of eggs, I'm going to do this. I'm going to end up having a conversation with a client and not use percentage and call them eggs. But this is what I'm worth and this is how I do it on it, then how the hell am I going to negotiate your money? If I can't negotiate my money,
Totally with you.
How am I going to be able to negotiate your money?
Beth Mark is watching the program.
7 days on market, median.
She says, in my opinion, agents have a fiduciary responsibility to their home buyers
Agreed.
to show any homes meeting their criteria.
Agreed.
Buyer's
Agreed.
agents can reach out to a seller to ask how much compensation for buyer's agent.
Agreed. Perfect word. There's a fiduciary responsibility. Now, it's interesting.
She also says, in my opinion, a flat fee. That what's going to happen is there's going to be a flat fee that buyers pay their representation
I disagree with that.
for representation.
I disagree with that.
I think that's what's going to happen too.
No, it's going to be what I negotiate with Jerry. If we negotiate a flat fee, then we negotiate a flat fee, right? And, look, you know what? I've been in this business for a very long time. These discount brokerages, these 1%ers or whatever, that 1eggs, whatever they were, they've been around for a very long time, been out in the public, very well marketed, very well advertised, and guess what? They don't really capture a market very well. And we're going to bring Yvonne in here, a transaction right now in the last 20, particularly the last 5 to 10 years, is extremely complicated. It requires a ton of skill, a ton of knowledge, a ton of ability to get it from point A to point B. It is not a simple process. And I can't tell you how many deals I pick up halfway through it because they thought they could do it on their own and now they can't. And oh, by the way, I'll be more than happy to help you, but this is my fee, this is how we do this, and we can go ahead and move forward. We're either going to get the seller to pay it or you're going to have to pay it. So this has always been there and always has been out there. The question becomes, do you have the skills to negotiate that? It's really not changing anything. It's just bringing things out into the daylight. Look, the percentage of eggs are probably going to drop a little bit, right? Let's face it, it's been going downhill. It's been going downhill for years, and I can't talk about number of eggs and all this stuff, but whatever your perception of the industry norm is, it's really not been the case for a while. It's not the same number of eggs as it was 5 years ago or 6 years ago. The number of eggs are kind of being chipped away. So that's been happening no matter what. This will probably accelerate that a little bit. But Jerry, it's a matter of, this is business, right?
Oh, I know.
Right? This is a matter of you're going to build an awesome website, which you've done for me, right? Okay, Jerry, this is what I need. This is how I need it. How much is it going to cost? It's a little too high. And we just negotiate it, right? And we end up with either toning down the website I wanted to something more realistic for the price I wanted. Or we start giving back and forth, and we end up on a settled number.
In your scenario, it's a flat fee. In the scenario of an appraiser, and we got appraisers watching, appraisers are paid a flat fee to do their job.
Sure.
Home inspectors are watching. Home inspectors are paid a flat fee for inspecting a house.
I
think that's the direction that representation
I
in
disagree
real
with
estate.
it. I don't really. I may be wrong. I think the number of
the
eggs,
flat fee allows more transparency and accountability.
No, it doesn't.
I think it does.
No, the transparency.
What other business is a percentage of the sale?
It doesn't matter.
Name one.
It doesn't matter, Jerry. It's a matter of what I negotiate with you in the buyer-broker agreement. It could be a flat fee. It could be for turkeys. It could be for eggs. It could be for a brand new boat. Thank you, Jerry. It could be for whatever it needs to be. And the premise of the lawsuit, and there's a strong likelihood that the plaintiffs are going to lose. I mean, this could go either way. The premise of it is that there was a conspiracy to set certain number of eggs. And I can assure you that's never been the case. The industry or the market kind of settled in some stuff. I will tell you, when I started this, it was 10 eggs. It was 10 eggs back in the 80s. Why was it 10 eggs?
Because the sales prices were low.
There you go.
And you guys weren't making enough money at 3% or 6%, or 3 eggs or 6 eggs.
Well, it was 5 eggs.
Yeah.
It was 10 eggs.
It was too low. The difference now is the values of the home have appreciated so quickly that if someone came and said, I want 10 eggs of the transaction, people would laugh at you guys.
So we always have a conversation about compensation. You are required by law, by state law, they don't tell you when, but you're required to have a conversation about it and set expectations. We put it on paper, right? It's just like any other agreement that you enter into. It could be it could be anything. I've done commercial transactions for a fixed fee, done dozens and dozens and dozens of them, right? It's negotiated on the front end of it, right? So here's a reality, real situation. Just did a rather substantial commercial deal in Richmond. Got a client, built a ton of trust with them, won't do anything without me helping them guide and mentor them through the process. Called the company, because as you know, commercials are typically in-house listings, right? They're not kind of they're publicly out there, but they're in-house. I said, look,
Here's what he means by that. You take, two of the best brokers, and I think
it would be
Johnny Pritzloff and Jenny Stone. Are you watching? They're commercial brokers.
Yeah.
Tallheimer.
Yeah.
What Tallheimer does is they put their listings on a Tallheimer website. You're not going to find Tallheimer listings.
That's not true. You'll find some of them.
You'll find some of them,
Yeah.
but they do a good job of keeping them within the Tallheimer digital infrastructure, as opposed to putting them on LoopNet or Craxi or some of these other. I personally pay fees to multiple commercial listing services.
We all do.
And it's expensive.
Very expensive.
But I often go to the Tallheimer website to see what they're selling.
You do that first, usually.
Yeah, I do that first.
So, prime example, Richmond, significant deal. Significant price point on it. Happened to be a relationship I established over years. It was a nonprofit medical firm that was trying to do work in Richmond. Picked up the phone, called the broker up there, and I said, so I've got a client, yada, 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 cash, yada, 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 yada. What's your buyer broker compensation? None. Okay, great. Okay, this is what I can do for you to my client. This is what I can. We negotiated a price and service, was extremely low, just to kind of pay for my time for traveling and all this kind of great stuff, because I want to do the right thing by this nonprofit and help them out. They're doing some great stuff. But that's what I did. I negotiated it. And at the end of the closing, the buyer paid me this fee, which was nominal, and everybody was happy. We closed. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I got a phone call from them from another facility they want to buy in Buckingham that has a percentage of eggs in the sales price. And guess what? I do good then. So this is about relationships. This is about trust. This is about being professional and caring and develop a relationship with you. And what we negotiate. Some deals will be this and some deals will be that. It's not that complicated. The question is how Woody and the appraisals are going to, that's a whole world that nobody's figured out yet on that. But it's no different than what I've been doing, everybody's been doing, that you're supposed to be doing for a long time.
Comments are coming in fast and furious.
I'm surprised.
Large majority of people that are listening to this program had no idea that the percentage was not paid at transaction by the seller.
No. It currently is.
Right.
So let's back up for a second.
I guess what I should say is they had no idea that it was negotiable.
Yeah.
It's everywhere here.
Everything is negotiable.
This question literally just came in as don't the proceeds always come from the seller side?
Well, so you're asking two questions. You're making two different statements, right?
Well, I'm not. The viewers and listeners are.
So yes, So let's talk about how it's currently done right now. How it's currently done right now, there is a listing agreement. You're selling your home. I'm the listing agent. We have a listing agreement. In that listing agreement, it talks about the percent eggs, the number of eggs. It also talks about how many eggs that I am going to get paid for my work. And then there's a percentage of eggs that the buyer's agent is going to be paid. So the money comes out of the net proceeds of the seller. Absolutely. The premise, depending on who you talk to, I think the premise of the lawsuit is that the buyer had no understanding, which is the second part of this question, no understanding of how much eggs that was being paid to the buyer broker in that purchase price. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And here's the deal. If you do your buyer-broker agreement with your thing, it's never in question. It's either what the seller's prepared to pay, or it actually says or, this amount. So you should know the moment you walk into your first house what your buyer-broker is being paid and how much.
Woody Fitcham, the appraiser, is watching the program. Woody Fitcham says to protect public trust, appraisers legally can only accept assignments based on flat fees.
Yeah.
Beth Mark says, I agree with Jerry.
Yeah.
This is going to go to a flat fee environment.
No,
She works in the business.
yeah, and it won't. Flat fees have never worked before. It could be. I don't think flat fees will work, but it could. Who knows at this point? Then the question becomes, what's the flat fee? The thing is,
Well, this is how I would do it if I was a businessman,
let me
which
get
is
this out.
I am a businessman, but
let me get this out. So if everything would have worked the way it was supposed to work, and everybody did a buyer-broker agreement that said, no matter what, I'm getting paid X percentage of X. If everybody has done that, and every single transaction from day one until today, this would have never came up. Because everybody knew what the numbers were on the
but
table.
that was not happening.
It seems to be that was not the case, because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about this.
Of course.
So, but if everybody has simply done a buyer-broker agreement and simply negotiated on the front end on how many percentage of eggs or flat fee, it doesn't freaking matter. We wouldn't be having this. We'd be talking more about pasta today, which is really what I wanted to talk about.
But that's not why they tune into the show.
Yeah, I know that. So, so in any event, if you just do your job,
This is what I would do if I was a buyer representative. This is coming from a businessman's perspective. It's been doing this for a long time. I would say, I will do this on a flat fee structure. It is X amount of dollars. And for X amount of dollars, I'm going to give you X amount of hours of my time. And once you surpass that threshold
So there's
of X amount of hours, then another retainer payment is due.
yeah,
That's how lawyers work.
Yeah.
That's how I work. Oh, the retainer's $5,000. You get X amount of hours for $5K. Once you surpass the $5K retainer,
that's how I do my commercial work.
once you surpass the $5K retainer, you owe another $5K retainer, and you got more hours from
But
me.
what you're missing, Jerry, that's great if I'm doing a B2B, right, a business to business, or I'm doing somebody that is a sophisticated buyer. How the hell are you going to manage that with the first-time home buyer who's trying to get into a home that don't exist, that is overpriced at 8%? How do you take care of that particular client? The bottom line is you can negotiate that. You can, assuming your broker lets you do this, by the way, because the broker is ultimately, so you probably don't know this.
Oh, I do know that. The
Ultimate-
broker's in charge of the realtors and what they can and can do with their commission structure, with their egg structure, and their compensation structure.
Well, they ultimately own the listing agreements,
100%.
the buyer-broker agreements, and the contracts. I mean, they're ultimately in the
In charge.
possession of the thing. So it's not the agent. So to be cautious, whatever we're talking about is at a very high level, but you better have a conversation with your broker what I can or cannot do.
which is also another point of concern because different brokers are going to have different structures.
So that's part of the benefit of the system that we had set up. It's a very unified system on it. The question is, the point is,
Put them on
not
a one shot.
not every real estate agent. It's okay. No, not every. I just hope you feel better, buddy.
I feel great. It's just my voice.
Not every real estate agent.
Wish I had a full voice here to have this conversation because I'm enjoying this.
Well, it gives me a bit. I got a bit of an advantage.
You do have an advantage. I can only say 13 words at a time.
Is that even possible?
No, it's not. That's why my voice is.
So, if everybody in the business simply just does the buyer-broker agreement, and by the way, I'm going to pivot a little bit on you. This description that you had, there are things called limited service agreements. There are agreements.
Oh, I know.
There are agreements that I can do a limited service listing or limited service buyer. We are full service. We will always be full service. You will, and the problem with limited services is, this may sound attractive on the front end, but when the proverbial hits the fan, and it always hits the fan. It never not.
You want full service.
You want full service because you don't want to go. I as an agent, we will never. I can look you dead in the face. We will, we just will get out of the business. We're not going to do limited service agreements. We will always do full service. We will always take care of our clients fully from stem to stern in it. And we will negotiate. They like that, huh?
I do like
and we will go ahead and negotiate. We do it, Jerry. What frustrates me is we do this now. We do this with every transaction.
But you guys are the anomaly. You're not the norm.
I've been called a lot of things. I don't think I've ever been called.
You're the exception. You're not the norm.
I think that's a bit dramatic, and I get what you're saying.
You guys go above and beyond.
Thank you, but there is a ton.
I got a lot I want to get to with you here.
A ton.
So I'm trying to.
And I get it. What time is it? Ooh,
So that's
there's a ton of realtors that do this very thing.
Oh, I know.
And look, there's a reason why it used to be 20% of all the real estate agents did 100%.
Now it's like 7% of the realtors do 90% of the business.
I would say it's probably closer to 5 when
Yeah.
you really. If you take out the 2 10-ton elephants, which is bright and unrepresented because there is enough out of it, that percentage probably drops closer to 5%. And I can assure you, these 5% or 10% are super. They're all professionals. Some just don't know. Now's the time to get, if you're in the business, now's the time to get your education. Now's the time to go through and get your coaching and mentoring through it. Look, we're slow right now. We're in the slow time of the season of it. And this is what we're doing with our folks. We are sitting down one-on-one as teams, as synergy groups to say, okay, we've got to make sure, regardless of what happens here, we got to make sure whatever we're doing is at the highest of professional level and everybody understands their fiduciary responsibilities. By the way, the seller and the buyer have also a fiduciary responsibility to this transaction. Go ahead, jump in.
So, other things that are important to highlight here. And I'm just looking at this as a guy that's a businessman and someone who's done deals. Okay?
But
and I'm trying to do this in an approachable way that appeals to everybody and not from a level of sophistication. Who the people are really going to get impacted here are first-time home buyers. The first-time home...
Hands down.
I got limited voice here. So, the first-time home buyer is the first-time home buyer at an 8% environment and the most expensive value environment in American history. It is the most expensive home value environment in American history. Rates from 2020 to now have almost 4x'd. Credit card debt's at an all-time high, and student loan debt is starting back up again. The first-time home buyer is going to get screwed and kicked in the nuts again. And why the first-time home buyers are going to get screwed and kicked in the nuts again is because the first-time home buyer is probably going to have to take cash out of their pocket to pay their representatives, when their budget is already stretched.
That's not true. That's not necessarily true.
There's a scenario where they're going to have to take cash out of their pocket to pay their representatives. This is going to impact the financially margined the most.
I agree 100%.
This is another headwind
Yeah.
for affordability and housing.
Yeah, I don't want to. We're good. So, yes, I don't necessarily agree with the details, but
Which part? Which ones?
the first-time home buyer, this will impact them the most. The people who do not have the cash. Look, it hasn't been decoupled yet, Jerry. Right? So this is a potential possibility when, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, but when you start seeing the 350 to 250, the 400 to 450 listings start putting in a $1 right now, that's when this is going to impact it the most. At the moment, it's only a couple of listings. At the moment, it's only the higher end numbers. So if you're buying something for $2 million, you can probably pay a fee of some sort or a percentage of eggs of some sort. Is just an assumption. But at this very moment, and for the foreseeable future, if you look, the system is still functioning as it is. But there has to have this conversation with your buyer and your seller, but particularly your buyer, that look, this is a possibility right now. It could be that there's a house in Lake Monticello. I don't know. This is not factual, right? This is just me doing a what if, right? There could be a house in Lake Monticello at $250,000 that has $1 because it's allowed to go. You're allowed to do that right now in our MLS. You're allowed to do that. So if I don't have that buyer broker agreement and I don't have it signed and do it like you talk about, where sometimes they don't, and I have to admit it does happen, that they don't do the buyer broker agreement until they submit the thing. This is how this works, Coach. If I open up that box, I don't have a buyer broker agreement set up, I just agreed to help this client for $1. As soon as I open up that box, I just agreed to it. Now, if I have a buyer broker agreement that supersedes that, my client can pay me, that's a whole different animal. The question really is for, and again, it's a flat fee, it's a percentage of eggs, that the number is immaterial. The question becomes at the entry level or at that point, will the regulators allow seller concessions for my compensation? Right now, it's not. Right now, as it stands today, you can't do that, because then what you can do is, now this becomes a
Explain seller concessions to the viewers and listeners.
yeah. So seller concession is Jerry is selling a house for $100,000. There's $3,000 worth of closing costs. Jerry agrees to pay for my $3,000 worth of closing costs. Right? And they're very specific items, right? Or we go back and negotiate and say, okay, Jerry, we're going to offer you $103,000, and you're going to pay my 3% or my $3,000 worth of closing costs. With the struggle, that's allowed.
You know what the struggle of doing that way is it's going to make it more difficult for people to qualify for financing.
Well, and
it's not allowed.
look at this. I didn't use but. I used and. And look at this. Smith can learn. And right now, this is a lot. What I just described, Woody can calculate this into.
It's going to F the appraisal.
He can. It's currently now. What's not allowed is to say, okay, at the moment, and I need lenders to tell me I'm wrong, but right now I've asked enough questions.
Andy Zeman, help us here, Andy.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but right now, if that same $100,000 house and I'm the buyer and we settle on 2 eggs, right, or 3 eggs, whatever the number of eggs is on it, we can't jump that seller concession from 3 eggs to 6 eggs or 5 eggs to cover my 2 eggs. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think that's allowed in the regulatory underwriting world on it, but it creates even a bigger issue for Woody, because I don't think he can count any
No, of course he can't.
of mine.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
How could he count out?
Yeah, so now-
Woody's the appraiser, by the way, in this
Yeah,
scenario.
Woody, I apologize.
How could the appraiser?
Yeah, well,
count
I
out?
don't think he's allowed, regulatory-wise, I don't think he's allowed to.
Well, of course he can't.
Yeah. So now, what happens, Coach, if the house does, this is,
If the house, in that scenario, the house doesn't appraise, so they can't get the financing.
so forget about how, I just outlined,
This is great. People are loving this.
we just,
Are you having fun?
I'm having fun, I just feel bad about your voice. That's
Oh, my voice is good.
So,
I feel great. I'm sitting across from my friend. I know it's 11:30.
yeah.
We need to. I have more comments than I can keep up with.
Yeah, sure. We can pick this up on Friday. But
We should, and my voice will be more.
Sexier?
Ooh. Dial 1
I also lie a little bit.
Dial 1-900-696-6969.
I'm going to leave that one alone. Look,
You and I are cut from the same cloth.
sick son of a gun. But there you go. Get back to Focus Smith.
You got us focused.
Focus. So look, this isn't as dire as everybody thinks it is, right? It is not. It is working its way in through the system. If you're a professional, you know your job, you know how to communicate with people, right? ABC. It's not closing, it's always be communicating, right? And I communicate with you what my value proposition is and how I do it and how I get paid and set those expectations up in the front. And we'll just end with this. Look, let's face it. I love all my fellow realtors, so we're just going to get that out there. But some of them probably have not been either done that, have the skills to do it. So now, right now, if you're in the business, this is a great opportunity to work on your skills, to work on your negotiation abilities, and work on your communication, to sit down and have a conversation with Jerry, who's the buyer, and the seller, because you have to set them up for that this is maybe coming down the pike on it. And the last quick comment is, look, Judah, do me a favor. Can you go back to this real quick? So, this is the DOMs, right? Right? 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, probably starting around 16, but everything from 8 to 14, guess what they used to have in the MLS? Egg incentives.
So here's what he means by eggs incentives. When the homes, and we have to close.
Yeah, sorry.
What he means by that is eggs incentives. When homes were not selling,
The sellers were offering eggs.
sellers were offering larger commissions to buyer representatives,
More eggs.
more eggs, to get their homes to sell.
Because nobody was buying. So
Well,
this
I
pendulum,
don't think that's a great point for you to make.
it is not a good point?
No. Why it's not a good point is that you're basically saying buyers' representatives were influenced by eggs to show homes at a greater clip.
No.
That's-
What I'm saying is sellers incentivized buyers' agents to bring agents. You can twist it any way that you want. The point that I'm trying to make at is right now you're at 7 days in the last 3 years. It is a seller's market right now. Eventually that's going to switch to a buyer's market. I'll probably be dead and gone by then, but
No.
but eventually
Still
it's going
gonna
to
be
be.
doing real
But
talk.
I wanted to put it into historical context that there was a time when sellers were doing whatever they could do to get buyers to come in, however you want to architect it or say it. So this pendulum does swing a little back and forth over time. Do your job, get your buyer broker agreement, negotiate your skill, negotiate what you want to do, and get that buyer broker signed. If you're a real estate agent helping buyers, and there's never a question, it's done. Thank you. Sorry.
Can we talk about, they're asking if we can talk about this on
No.
Friday. No?
I want to talk pasta. Yeah, of course.
Should we bring a lender in?
I don't know what we could, but I don't know what they're going to add to the conversation because they don't know. Nobody knows, Jerry, how this is going to go. And the thing that I constantly want to hammer out is communication with your client, be transparent, be open, right? And everything will work out okay. You'll figure it out. This is what we do. We solve problems every day.
You do.
Right?
And you're good at it.
And that's where so the whole,
Viewers and listeners will save your questions that we didn't get to today. I see many of them, and I'll archive them for Friday. You and I
Are people watching?
Your colleagues were watching.
Oh, boy.
You had the mortgage folks and the realtors heavy on this. I would imagine the buzz got around the industry to tune in.
Yeah, it's if you're
Now, here's the thing. If I'm in your shoes, and we got to close. If I'm in your shoes, being the guy or the source of the source on this topic is going to further your credibility and your value proposition.
Yeah. That's the reason I don't brand my slides. I want people to use them as open source.
Can you send one to me?
Yeah. We'll do.
And I love you, and I love your generosity with the Ricola.
Yeah.
Ricola.
11:36. You got
know.
another show to do,
I know.
and you got to suck a couple dozen of them.
Among other things, I was
There you go.
talking about perhaps hitting the
Hitting the little table over there.
table over there.
I'll partake with
Okay.
you.
All right. Judah Wickower is the director. Keith Smith is the star of the show. Yes, Realty Partners. Yes, Realty Partners. Yes, Realty Partners. The show is realtalkwithkeithsmith.com.
But any real estate agents that's watching, reach out to them. They'll help you with this.
There you go. Thank you for your honesty
Yeah.
and your transparency.
But we need to. I don't want to go to this hysteria thing. I want to be clear, concise, give good information, the best that I can, and if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know.
There you go. Keith Smith, boys and girls. He's the bee's knees. Thank you for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. The I
What
Love
does that even
Seville
mean?
show is up in 53 minutes. I have no idea. So long, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.